I don't care how many wins they get. Screw them.
That wasn't the take I was expecting to hear.
I want to gush over watching live Chris Tanev.
I think that we completely underestimate the skill it takes to play defense.
One highlight or several highlights does not a Calder trophy make.
I'm stepping in here. I'm going to be the crotchety old man here. They need to learn patience. They need to understand the tension and everything and the drama.
How dare! Look at this! How is McDavid not getting a penalty?
You guys need to calm down with this, okay? You guys need to calm down with it.
Actually live? Is this really for real? We are back. Yes, we are. Welcome back to the Shifts and Pucks podcast season premiere. Do we call it the season premiere?
Sure, but already. Kev?
Yeah.
Headroom.
Oh, yeah. I already did that. Well,
Or should we call this training camp?
Yeah, this is the training camp edition, preseason edition of the Shifts and Pucks. Hello, Tyler, who's not here. But you can follow us on X at Shifts and Pucks. It's still Twitter. Shifts and Pucks.
It's still Twitter.
YouTube.com Shifts and Pucks. Facebook.com Shifts and Pucks. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast as well. And welcome here. The NHL training camps started on Thursday. The WHL regular season starts on Friday. It's safe to say that hockey is back, and it's great to be back, and we're very excited about the year. And so let's just say hello to everybody first. Hello to everyone. Subscribe, all of that. Give us ratings, reviews. We'll get into all of that a little bit later. But first of all, I'm going to go to my left. Hello, Sean. How are you?
Hey, Kev. I'm good. Yeah, it's great to be back here. We got on here, as is tradition, late. Not as tradition. It's my fault this time.
Not me. I was the early one for once.
It was me.
Yeah, but no, it's been great. It was nice to have a couple months off, but ready to. Today was the beginning of training camp, so you're seeing all the lines come out, and everyone's overreacting to who's on what line and overthinking it all. William Nylander's on the third line, and he's asking you for $10 million. What the fuck? What's wrong with him?
Yeah. A little later on in the show, we're going to have a tribute to a player who made such an impact on the Canucks community that I dare say that this player should be in the Ring of Honor. First, Chris, how are you?
I'm well. How about you, Kev?
I'm good, but you've had a summer.
I mean, my apartment almost burned to the ground about a month ago. So yeah, you could say I've had a summer.
How are things out there for those, of course, who don't know the wildfires that happened in the Okanagan, and it was quite devastating.
Yeah, fortunately, most of the buildings were saved. That being said, there was probably about, I think, 70 buildings or so that did burn down in West Kelowna. The fire got to as close as about 200 meters away from my apartment complex. So it actually did get dangerously close. But I'm very grateful that I still have all my worldly possessions and a place to come back to when I'm not out of town working. So, yeah. Good. But as far as conditions now, it's relatively it's definitely cooled down, which is good as far as trying to tame all these fires, and not nearly as smoky as it was about a month ago. Still a little hazy, but I'll take blue sky when I get it.
Fair. Devin, let me be the first to do this. How the fuck are you? So now,
yeah, let's fucking go. No, I'm fucking great, Kev. Thanks for asking. Yeah, summer was busy. Went to San Diego for a close friend's wedding. Running the business, and you know what? trying to still recover from knee surgery, but just found out that I have to have another scope done on my knee, so that's always fun. Yeah, you know, life.
Yeah. Well, I worked all summer, so I didn't get to go anywhere. That's okay. It was fun. It was a lot of hours. But that is, I know the roads of Vancouver really well now. So I guess that's the,
And what bridges that trucks like to run into?
Well, it's pretty much all of them. So that is,
Lower mainland drivers, am I right?
Lower mainland truck drivers in some ways, am I right? Yeah. So for those who don't know, on Tuesday, so I was actually just about to get off for the shift, and a truck ran into an overpass on the North Shore near the ironworkers, and that clogged things up for about 8 hours. There were people waiting in that line for 8 hours. He ran away. The truck driver ran away, and I don't know if they found him or not. But it's basically a hit and run, and the person is a wanted truck driver. So, that was something for sure. But
and Chris, you thought waiting like 20 minutes for the alternating traffic to get down to Penticton was tough.
Yeah, I mean that definitely puts that to shame.
Yeah, it cleared at 3 o'clock in the morning. Not that I was there till 3, but still, I still had a long one. Yeah. Maybe you know what? Let's start quickly there. Sean and Chris had a chance to check out the Canucks Flames, at least one game anyway, of the Young Stars Classic. We're going to try to make it a tradition to get out there. I did watch the games. Devin, did you watch games?
I did not, unfortunately. I really wanted to, but too damn busy.
Fair enough.
Yes. Starting next year, let's make it. Let's start the tradition. Get everyone out to and invade Chris's place.
I mean, I'm not sure I have enough beds for all of y'all, but you're more than welcome to come visit.
You kidding me? I'm going to be Big Spoon, baby. Let's go.
Just watch out for Bowie. He likes to wake you up at 5 a.m.
I already got an orange cat that does that to me, so it'll be just like I'm home.
That's true.
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun. I just wish the Flames had shown up for that game.
I mean, I was enjoying the fact that they didn't. That means that my buddy Matt brought up the fact that the last 2 Canucks games that I've attended in person have been consecutive 7-1 ass whoopings at the Flames.
Well,
the last one prior to that was the one at Rogers Arena when they were wearing the black skate night.
Right. Yeah, that was a couple years ago, right, at Rogers Arena.
Yeah, I want to say that would be like February of 2022.
Yes, I want to say that. Yes, I remember that game because I think it was it was close to a back-to-back, and it was Markstrom in net, and he got just
for the Flames. Yep.
Yeah, Fleener got floundered. Yeah. And it was a night of Bruce. There it is. But who impressed you on that Young Stars roster for the Canucks? And I'll go and I'll give some to the Flames.
Akito Hirose showed really well. Very poised defenseman, making smart plays. Slick skater.
Looked like a man among boys as far as his composure.
Yeah. Aiden McDonough's got one hell of a shot. And he's definitely more physically mature than most players at that tournament. And then I would say Cole McWard really impressed me as well on the blue line. I don't think he's making the team this year, but I think they've got something there. And in a year or two, you might see him get a significant amount of games, maybe even a game or two this year again.
Chris, who impressed you?
Like for me, Akito Hirose definitely stuck out as far as the defenseman, and then as far as forwards, and it was more just in the sense of being like his physical presence and like rough and tumble, but Gatcomb actually stood out quite a bit to me.
Yeah,
Seemed
he
like
got
every single time I was looking out on the ice and there was a big hit or something that kind of caught your attention, he was the culprit for it. So yeah, he definitely caught my attention.
Yeah, I agree with all of those. I don't know if I would have added anyone else, but I thought like overall the Canucks showed well in terms of just feeling like they were prepared as a team. I mean, the goaltender, it was tough to not get to evaluate the goaltender because I think he had there was 10 shots in that game in total. It was just not the Flames' first night. Just was a disaster.
I want to say it was like 34-11 for final shots.
Yeah. My takeaways, though, just quickly with the Flames, just who impressed me overall of all three games. Adam Klapka impressed me a lot. The guy is 6'7". He's got a reach. Is he incredibly skilled? Not exactly, but fuck, does he put in an effort? And I just love it. He finds a way to get himself involved. And I really like that. Lucas Ciona was engaged. I think he's going to be very interesting with the Wranglers this year. And as well, Etienne Morin was pretty okay. I don't think he was great in the Calgary game, but no defenseman was great in the Calgary game. And I think one of the unfortunate things that happened was Jerome Poirier is injured and didn't play in the tournament. And they had to bring in a couple of PTOs to play on defense. The other guy that kind of flew under the radar for me with the Flames was the goaltender Connor Murphy. He's unsigned. We're an undrafted player that played against Edmonton and Winnipeg, and he played really well. He showed really well, and I will be very interested to see how he can. Obviously he's not in the Flames, not in the big club, but I think it's going to be interesting to see down that depth chart where they put him, because I think he's a guy that's going to be fighting. He's going to fight for a position. So those were the guys that kind of impressed me. And as far as Coronado, we'll probably dig into this when we talk about the Flames. But I am of the early belief that a year in the AHL would actually benefit him than him scrambling to fight for a fourth line role on the Flames. I don't see this guy in a top 9 role. I don't think he's got an amazing shot when he's able to get it, but you got to put yourself in positions to shoot. And I found that he struggled with that. And I also found that he got himself quite frustrated in certain situations that I think this is a guy that needs to be in the AHL. I don't think at least to start, I would put him in the AHL, but
yeah, we can talk about Coronado when we talk about the Flames, but I've heard as far as Klapka goes, for his size, he has a lot of skill, and I didn't get a chance to see him at the Young Stars Classic, but that's what I've heard from multiple different sources that for his size, he could be a good fourth to third liner in the NHL eventually. He's only 23 years old. I could definitely see if he does take another step within this Wranglers here that he could take a shot at being a call-up for a game or 2 or 3. I'm excited to see how effective he can be at the pro level, whether or not it's the AHL or NHL.
Yeah.
He had 25 points last year with the Wranglers. He was definitely one of the more noticeable Flames out there. I mean, he's 6'8", so it's hard not to notice him. But the Canucks also had their big giant out on that ice too, and it was interesting to see how they both sort of found ways to be to make an impact. Whether it was Klapka being a little more aggressive, and then why am I drawing a blank on the Canucks big guy?
Ulriksson.
Pardon?
Ulriksson.
Ulriksson, yeah. He was a little more deft and just being in the way, being in front of the goalie. He was really good at that, and I think throughout the tournament, I think he started finding his game, and he's going to find some more aggressiveness in playing in the OHL this year. So, That's also like such a small sample size against and scrambly hockey. Like as good as the Canucks were, they were, especially in that game specifically, the Flames had like no structure. There was no cohesiveness, so it's really hard for players to look good when the team is that just scrambly. So I'll still like Kev. There's a good chance that Cornell does start in the AHL. It's a good chance he spends most of the year, if not all of it, in the AHL. But I still want to see him with better players and see if he can find his niche and role within the lineup when it's not as much fire wagon hockey.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, we will see him in the preseason. We'll get to that. We'll start with the Canucks here. A couple of things happened within the last couple of weeks that were significant news. Let's start with, I think, the more impactful one is they did name a captain to replace Bo Horvat. The 15th captain in Vancouver Canucks history is Quinn Hughes. And they did that before the season before training camp even started. They did the name, they sent it out as a press release. I'm sure they're going to do some sort of mini, hey fans, welcome your new captain Quinn Hughes at the start of the season, but they made this as low of a downplay as you can to name a captain. And so I guess I'll just give my thoughts. I think it was down to Hughes or Petey, and I don't think it had anything to do with Petey's contract situation. I think ultimately Hughes wanted it more than Pettersson. I think that just was probably more of the role, but it's to me the only two options were Hughes or Pettersson to me going forward. So I think they made the right decision in terms of what the future of this team looks like anyway.
Yeah, I don't think there was a wrong choice between Pettersson and Hughes. But I do think, Hughes, I think, has a better grasp on the speaking and more comfortable with it than Petey does. I think Petey's is quite happy that he to be more of the quiet, a little more quiet than Hughes. And Hughes has spoken up before. He's made comments about the Pride Night last year. He made comments about Tanner Pearson's injury. Like he's spoken up in the media before, and it sounds like, and if you look back, it's talked about it. Alvin's talked about it, how his leadership has grown over the past year, and I think that's the way. When you looking back, I think that all the breadcrumbs were there leading up to the naming of Quinn Hughes as captain.
Yeah, he definitely strikes me as the more, the more comfortable fit within that role. To me, Petey's a little more on the timid side. And like when you give a quote, like, I don't want to give you a headline, like, I'm sorry, but when you are going out and having to talk to the press after a rough couple of games and you're on a losing streak or what have you, like, you're going to be giving headlines. So like just the overall just comfortableness that Quinn had compared to Petey in that regard, I feel like it was definitely the right fit to go with Quinn. And just that, even though like Quinn's still a relatively quiet guy as well, but as Sean pointed out, he's kind of gotten more and more comfortable being more vocal and has for example, even the team to address the crowd at the last home game of the regular season, who did they give the mic to? It was Quinn. So to me, it was somewhat predictable, but I still was intrigued by the what about sort ofness between the two of them.
For me, it was undoubtedly Quinn Hughes. Pettersson, outside of everything you guys have already said, his contract situation is going to be tested this year, and it would be hard to have a captain that is in limbo. Yes, he's an RFA, so he's not going to go anywhere, but it would still be kind of awkward for Pettersson to be the captain and outside of his not willingness to really engage with the media as much as Hughes would. But to me, it was undoubtedly Quinn Hughes through and through.
Yeah, for this market, I'm not always the one that necessarily thinks you have to be the most vocal, because I don't think Connor McDavid is uber vocal with the Edmonton media. Sometimes he doesn't always have the right answers, but but he's not always curt either. So, I mean, even Pettersson today made some headlines about when he was asked about his contract status. It says, that's your issue, not mine. I don't care. Why are you making it a big deal? So he's sort of a little bit testy with the Canucks media. So I can see why you go with Quinn Hughes on that. And I don't really, I just think that's the leadership core of the group of that team is Hughes, Pettersson, Demko, and JT Miller probably are your core four in my mind. And maybe you throw in Ian Cole because of his experience with Tocchet, but that's about it.
And maybe for this season, if you are doing a third A, I'd probably say Myers is probably the first up for it if you're not going to give it to a new guy like Cole.
Sean was trying to ship Myers out for the past 3 years. There's no way.
I'm not alone. I'm not alone.
Well, should we try to give it to Demko? Oh, wait. We've already tried having a goalie.
That doesn't work.
Yeah.
We've learned.
I hope so.
Speaking of shipping out, there was an actual trade in the National Hockey League, and Tanner Pearson was traded to the Montreal Canadiens for Casey DeSmith. I'm not saying I was surprised he went to the Canadiens. I mean, but I think probably best for both involved, the organization and Tanner Pearson. I'll start here. For Canuck fans, this, in my opinion, I don't think that there's been a player more underappreciated by a fan base, the Canuck fan base, than Tanner Pearson was. Did he have flashy stats? No. Was his contract awkward? Yes. Is that his fault? Not necessarily. But he was a heart and soul guy that did a lot of different things on and off the ice within the community. He was a staple on a line for Borehole during that bubble year where the Canucks had a pretty good team. He did a lot of things, and he got injured, and you can't. Devin probably relates right now more than anybody about the fact that you got to go through multiple surgeries with something. It's frustrating, and so I was not uber impressed with the treatment of Tanner Pearson by some of Twitter. Again, I think he was disrespected. He deserved a lot. Sean's tweeted this as well. He deserved a lot more respect than what a lot of Canuck fans gave him this week.
Yeah, his contract was 3.5 for I think 3 or 4 years when he signed it.
And there's 2 to go.
It was market value. It was he brought it every night. He had sort of one bad season in 2020, 2021 where he only had 18 points in 51 games. But the rest of it, like he was a solid player. But with the Canucks current situation cap-wise, as well as the glut of wingers that they have, they needed to move someone out, and I like this deal. They've got they get a backup in Casey DeSmith. We saw what Spencer Martin was. You don't want to rush Artur Silovs. So it gives Tanner Pearson a fresh start. Who I don't know what the details are with everything going on with the complications with his injury and surgery and all that, and whether or not it was the team's fault or this was just bad luck or there's something with the doctors outside of the team or what. But I think he needed a fresh start, and he's going to get one in Montreal, and there's a good chance that if he plays well, he will get shipped off to a contender at the deadline, because this is the last year of his deal.
Yeah, I don't really have any more to add that Kev and Sean haven't already said. Pearson was definitely a well-liked guy in the dressing room. It's unfortunate how this situation played out. And with all their offseason transactions and whatnot, there just wasn't any room for him on that lineup going into training camp. So it looked like he was likely going to be sent down to the minors if he wasn't able to be traded. So, yeah, like you guys said, it was probably best for both sides that they were able to ship him out, and they got the backup insurance that they needed, because, I mean, Martin wasn't all that impressive when Demko went down last season, and you don't, like Sean said, you don't want to rush Seelov. So, yeah, I think picking up a backup goalie, even if it is at 1.8, is a little pricey for my liking, but all things considered, yeah, not a bad trade.
Who's a better backup, Casey DeSmith or Martin Jones?
Martin Jones is the Leafs' third goalie.
Wow, I don't know about that.
You don't think they're gonna have? Does Wool need to go through waivers?
I believe he doesn't. I'll double check right now, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't. So my guess is going to be very similar to here in Calgary, as Dustin Wolf is going to be the third goaltender within the organization. You're going to have Martin, and you're going to have Daniel Vidar being the backup until he is traded, which, I mean, could be even this upcoming offseason, all depending on how Martin Jones, or God damn it, Dustin Wolf is going to be playing. And I believe that Martin Jones is going to be the backup for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But that's why I'm asking, Casey DeSmith or Martin Jones?
How much is Jones making as a backup?
Jones cap hit is $700,000. Just over 766,000.
I mean, appropriate price point as far as quality. I'm not super familiar with either of them beyond name recognition, so I can't really speak to that.
I think DeSmith has better just sort of standard goals against average and save percentage numbers over the past couple of years. But yeah, and Dev, just looking on Cap Friendly, it looks like Wool does need to go through waivers if he's going to be sent down. So
there you go. And it's 875,000. Not I was looking at Wool there, but yeah. I was just curious.
Yeah, but I think part of that whole thing with the backup is they got a valuable piece back out of this. Yeah, at one point it is a little much for a backup goalie, but it's better than the 3.5 of Tanner Pearson.
And it's only for 1 year,
right? Yeah.
Overall, we still cleared up more cap space, which is the silver lining of it all.
And you have a formidable backup, as much as many people I know do not like Casey DeSmith. My opinion is that they're pretty even. I would take Martin Jones over Casey DeSmith just by a hair, but not by much.
Guys, I think this is the time that we must pay tribute to the star of that the Canucks are going to tremendously miss. And I think this player needs to go in the Ring of Honor. The third round pick of 2025. I mean, how could you trade that player? I can't believe that you're trading third round pick of 2025. How dare you? How dare you? Good God, the stupidity around this draft pick. It's nothing. It is a $5 bill. Seriously, get over it. It will be traded at the draft room floor, not once, but twice. I guarantee you that. It's nonsense. Everybody does it. It's part of why we're in a flat cap system. You have to give up, sorry, Tyler, a sweetener. And it could have been.
There it is.
I was waiting for that.
Yeah, fuck you,
And
Tyler.
you know what? It could have. If you're trading a Tyler Myers and a Connor Garland, you might have to give up something a little higher. It's a 3rd round pick in 2025. These things move. Like the angst. This is not an asset. It's not really. It's a $5 bill. Like it's
Less than 10% chance that it's going to
ticket.
amount out to be an NHLer. Less than 10%.
Yeah.
So you're saying there?
In the grand scheme of things, I get the frustration of not being able to add, like trading away another. And it is an asset, a way to fix a salary cap problem, but you have to do it at some point. Yeah, like what do you want this team to do? Just do nothing, not sign anyone, not trying to make the team better because you've got salary cap issues? No, you got to try and find a way to be creative.
And you're not going to not make that trade on principle of not trading a draft pick and then intentionally sending Pearson down and not shoring up your backup insurance. Like it makes no sense.
And the fact that they're looking elsewhere for players. They signed Philip Johansson, who was a former 2nd round pick, I believe, of Colorado. They got Niels Amon, who was found money last year. McWard and Hirose look good and look solid as assets for this team going forwards. Arshdeep Bains was put on the on a line with Pia Suter and who was it Beauvillier?
I think it was Beauvillier.
Yes. But in a prime spot because that was someone who they found and signed as a free agent. You can find players who would be, even if they don't make the show, as most third round draft picks do or don't, they still become assets within the organization and allow you to build up from there. So there's other ways to find assets. There's other ways to make this all happen, and to be just clutching for fans to be clutching their pearls over a 3rd round pick when the team is trying to unravel this salary cap puzzle sort of slowly, because it is a tough market, a tough trade market, and it's tough, and the cap hasn't risen as much as they initially thought it would over the past couple of years. It's the price of doing business.
Yeah.
And unless you want this team to just do fuck all and just wait for this all to blow over, that's not going to work, especially in a market like Vancouver.
But guys, like it could be a Brad Marchand, could be a Christopher Letang, could be a Tyson Barrie, Adam Henrique. Those are 3rd round picks that are actually worked out. Okay, it could be one of them.
But you can acquire that at the draft room floor in that year, right? So
let me just go buy my Lotto 649 ticket, Devin.
Hey, I have mine right over my shoulder. I understand. I really do.
And I get the frustration as Dylan brings up in the chat about the frequency, but that's also there's some of it that it was with the Benning regime, and this is a different regime, and they have to do something. They have to find a way to get creative. They have to find a way to unravel this salary cap issue that they have, so that they can make the team better. So they made the big move and bought out Oliver Ekman-Larsson. That helped a lot, especially this season. Next season going on and the years going, it's going to be the impact is going to be less, but you have to find other ways to do it.
I'm sure Jim and Patrick
would have
prefer
to give up assets like a 3rd round pick to make it happen. But you also have, when you find players like Akito Hirose, Cole McWard, Arshdeep Bains, I'll throw even another one, Tristan Nielsen, who I think has shown well for the Abbotsford Canucks and might turn into something. Those are all players who are basically 3rd round caliber right now.
Yeah.
And they've added those for fucking free. so I don't think that all this pro clutching that's happening by a certain segment in the fan base is warranted.
Well, and like you got to expect that there's going to be some low end third liners that are going to be coming through the waiver wire here, and you'll be able to get them for fucking nothing. It's going to happen. There's going to be a dump within the entire NHL, and you're going to have something that's going to be very easy to fill within the next 5 years, let alone like it happens every single year. Every single year it does.
Yeah. And it just, my only other thing with this specifically is when we talk, this is not the first time I'm going to push on some of the current analysis, but when we talk about asset management, I just find it interesting that people talk about asset management and you bring up draft picks, and yet you don't talk about asset management and signing NCAA free agents. Is that not part of the asset management? I just, like, to me, look, the draft is an important element of how you build a team, but I also think we overrate how we build a team through the draft. Because if we look at who rose the Stanley Cup last year and the drafting of the Vegas Golden Knights, the draftists are going to have to scratch their heads a little bit about how that was built.
Like, granted, there's a little slight argument in the sense that they're an expansion team, but I do see your point.
The Florida Panthers, were the Florida Panthers a drafting juggernaut here? I mean, Barkov, sure, Ekblad. But really part of it was a couple of big trades, Brandon Montour trade, a Sergei Bobrovsky signing, and the Matthew Tkachuk trade.
Sam Bennett.
Yeah, and the Sam Bennett trade too.
They got Carter Verhaeghe, I believe, off waivers.
Yeah, he was a waiver pick.
Yeah, I think now that you guys mentioned Florida, I want to say there's only, like, out of that entire roster, only 4 of them I think were drafted by the Panthers.
There's more than one way to build a contender in the NHL, and drafting well does help, but you have to find other avenues to find players.
Yeah. The 2 other things just quickly Ilya Mikheyev left for personal reasons, but he should be back.
Mikheyev wasn't expected to be a full participant in training camp. Still recovering from his knee surgery.
Yeah.
If he was participating, it would have been in a non-contact jersey with Group C.
Yeah, the AHLers.
Yeah. There was 2 things that Rutherford talked about, and we'll save the practice facility conversation for another time, because I do think it's a lengthy, interesting one that has a lot of other threads in it. But the one that I think will be an more interesting conversation is Rutherford's comment that he says if all goes right, the Canucks are a playoff team. I admire the honesty. They're not quite where they think that they need to be. They've got a few other things that they need to do, and I think that that's a realistic position to have. A former coach of the Flames always said you do need a little bit of luck to make the playoffs, and to me, the way that I look at most of the NHL, I can count on 2 hands how many playoff teams that I think are locks right now. I think everybody's kind of scrambling and need things to go really well for them to make the playoffs. Most teams do. So I don't see the Canucks in any different position.
From an outsider's perspective, that top 9 is, I think, Stanley Cup worthy. The defense is where it's to be less desired. But you really didn't see Filip Hronek much within the Canucks lineup because he got injured. So I think that the Canucks fans are going to be very pleasantly surprised with how good he actually is and what he can bring to that lineup. The goaltending will take a step forward. I think Demko. I think he'll actually save some games for the Canucks. So, and especially within this Pacific Division, who the fuck knows exactly who's going to be good outside of Edmonton? Realistically, I think it's a throw up. Between Calgary should take a step forward of what they did last year. LA, I think, is going to be decent. Seattle's going to be in there too, but outside of those guys, I really don't know in this Pacific division who else is going to be there. Anaheim's going to be terrible. San Jose is going to be bad. Everything else is a toss-up.
The only permanent ink one I would use is Edmonton. The other ones are all pencil, so that means it's up for grabs for the taking. And with the trajectory that the Canucks are on and with the moves that they made in the offseason, yeah, I agree with Jim. If things don't go sideways, and to the management's credit, they've done everything that they can to button up things and eliminate the drama, eliminate the noise. So that way, hopefully this year will be different from like the last 2 or 3 seasons in Vancouver, and they can actually get some momentum and ride that potentially to the playoffs.
I think Edmonton's a lock. I would say Vegas is a lock. Although I'll still say the same thing I said about them last year. If they get the goaltending, they're going to be good. I'm still not sold on the long-term sustainability of that goaltending, what they've got, but they've got multiple options, I think, to make it work. Then it's I've heard this term for a couple times. I can't remember where I got it originally, but there's the mosh pit of mediocrity. You've got the Canucks, you got the Flames, who are both very much wild cards in terms of you don't know exactly what you're going to get. Seattle, I think, everything went right for them last year. Will that happen again? I don't think so. So I think they come down. And then even if you go over into the Central, I think you've got, I think there's 3 teams that are locks there. You've got Dallas, Colorado, and Minnesota. And then you've got St. Louis, Nashville, Winnipeg, that are still are going to be in there. I know Kevin's high says that Arizona's going to be channeling the mullet power and will be in there. I don't see it. I see them as a half step down. But if everything goes right for them and they pull a Seattle, who knows? And they brought in enough notable names too. It's gonna be a fight to get into the playoffs, and it could go many different ways. The Canucks made moves to shore up that defense and signing Ian Cole and Carson Soucy. You've got we really didn't see what Philip Hronek can really bring to this roster last year. So we'll see what he brings in. He really bought into the talk it mantra and has come into shape in absolutely ridiculous shape. So that's really good for that's a good start. And then if you get even Demko at sort of average to above average Demko, that's going to be a big help for them. And as long as they don't have a absolutely historically horrendous penalty kill, that'll help a lot too.
Yeah.
Even if they have just a fucking average penalty kill, that's going to turn into a handful more wins, if not more.
I would say that was the focus of their offseason transactions. Like, if you look at all the names that they brought in and all, like, in comparison to the names that they let go, all of them are decent, if not good, on the penalty kill. So I'm not going to say we're going to have a great PK this season, but it's not going to be historically bad.
That's all I want. I want to be able to watch a Canucks game and they'll take a penalty and not me go, watch through my hands, because I don't know. I don't want to watch them just like give up a goal real quick.
Not an if, but a when is the goal against coming?
And they have a nice trial by fire to start the season with back-to-back against Connor McDavid and the Oilers.
Yeah, that'll be interesting for sure. Yeah, I'm with Sean. I think there's five. My five locks are Vegas, Edmonton, and Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota. We'll probably do our tip vision previews. I'll save some of my hot takes, but I will say this about Edmonton. I'm very interested to see. I think that Stuart Skinner can take a step up for sure, but I also think that Stuart Skinner can see a step back as well. I think it's going to be very interesting. I think a lot of what the Oilers' success is going to be about what happens with Stuart Skinner. And
is this his second or third season?
It will be a second full year.
Okay.
2.5.
So
yeah,
sophomore slump potentially.
I don't think so.
Well, he's coming in as the de facto number one, right? So this will be interesting. So
I think he's more just the 1A at this point. I think they will go more. I definitely want to do more of a tandem with Jack Campbell there as well.
He's making $5 million for the next 4 years, so
yeah, you got to kind of play him, but
I think you'll Woodcroft will go more so who the hot hand is, also depending on who the opponent is as well. But I would say it's going to be 70 to 65% Skinner over Campbell.
I think it'll be 82 games. I think it'll be maybe low 50s for Skinner if he keeps his form for starts. Yeah.
Let's transition to the Flames, and I think coming into this training camp, we had some different expectations. Of course, we had the Elias Lindholm question, we had the Noah Hannafin question, we have the Michael Backlund question. Those are the three big questions amongst the many UFAs that are coming into this off season, are coming into this year, and they're all at camp, all saying all of the right things. Are you surprised that the Flames did not do more in the off season?
No, it's about what is out there and who is able and willing to make a trade. I have no doubt that Craig Conroy was on the phones every day, every second day, trying to figure out something, and it's just the reality of the salary cap and where teams are at right now. It's not cohesive to trying to figure out a trade for Noah Hannafin or Michael Backlund or Nikita Zadorov. I think that if there's going to be a move, it's going to be later on or earlier on this year for a team who's going to be scrambling, who could be a Michael Backlund away, or they think that there's going to be or that there is injuries, not thinking there is injuries within their lineup, or you have a Daniel Vladar who comes out and plays decently well, and there's going to be a goaltender who isn't going to be playing as well as he was expected to be. So I think Conroy is playing his hand very well and being very patient. There's always going to be a trade deadline, and if it comes down to it, there's the big question at the trade deadline. If you're in a playoff spot and none of these players are signed, or there's only a handful or 2 or 3 players that aren't signed who are UFAs going into next year, what do you do? In my mind, you sell. You sell because you're not going to, like, the reality is that, yeah, a hope and a prayer is going to get you maybe 2-3 rounds, and to be a Stanley Cup candidate, it's very hard to do so. So you got to look at the longevity of the team, and as far as this summer goes, I'm not surprised whatsoever. I'm actually kind of happy with the return that we got for Toffoli, as the majority of Flames fans were like, "Who's this Sarangovich guy?"
Yeah.
I am surprised, and not to discount what you said there, Dev. Looking back, I think looking at the market and everything in hindsight, you can say you're not. I can see that, but I am surprised because I thought that there would be movement. I thought with the Hannafin saying he doesn't want to resign, you had Backlund wanting to wait. You have Lindholm's waffling as well. I thought that after what happened last offseason with Tkachuk and Gaudreau, that there would be some proactive moves here to make to reshape this team in Conroy's image, to reshape this team to help them grow long term. But yeah, it didn't materialize. So coming in, if the Flames are battling it out for the playoff spot, whether or not they're in a playoff spot or like in that battle, come Christmas, they're going to have to make some tough decisions with these players, because if they're just in that mosh pit of mediocrity, are these players going to want to sign long term here? And if they aren't, then can you sell ownership? Can you sell the fan base on selling these players off when you're in the middle of a playoff hunt? So it's going to be
sorry, go ahead.
It's going to be very, very, and that's where I expect them to be. I expect them to be in that mosh pit. I expect them to be battling it out. And as a outsider, as a Canucks fan in Calgary, it's going to be fun to watch.
Go ahead, Chris.
To be honest, I forget what I was going to say at this point. I had the stream of consciousness, and then as soon as I was like, oh shit, I accidentally interrupted him, then I lost it. So if it comes back to me, I'll jump back in, but I lost it.
Before you go, Kev, I just want to say that I agree with Sean that if there was the proper return for some of these players, then they would have pulled the trigger. But I just don't think that was the case during this offseason.
I'm with that. I don't think there was a proper return. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, Chris remembered.
It came back to me. So it was just more along the lines of that Conroy, when he first got introduced, he's saying, like, we learned our lesson. This will not happen again. And now there's 5 contracts where it potentially could happen again in one season. So like, I get that it's tough to make those moves. And especially the fact that he's like a rookie GM and he has a rookie head coach. Like, part of me wonders, like, if that's kind of what happened to Alvin, where he said that they wanted to make big changes, not this past offseason, but the one before that. And just like Conroy this offseason, not much happened. So who knows how much Craig was on the phone, but clearly nothing came to fruition.
You just can't give these players away, though. Like, you cannot give, and I think that it sounds like there was a pretty heavy push from Colorado to get a Michael Backlund. It didn't work out. Like, you can't give these players away. Like, you got to get something back, whatever that is, whatever your plan is.
Third round pick.
So, what's that?
Third round pick
For a Backlund? Are you kidding me?
Like,
yes, I am.
Good.
Like,
Good.
you gotta get some pretty significant pieces back, and it is going to be interesting to see what happens here. Everybody's saying the right things. Everybody's kind of calming into this here. And I think this team wants to kind of get off to a good start. And, it's fascinating even from a Flames to watch it from a Flames perspective, because you kind of don't know what to do. And I don't know if I agree that you sell even if you're in a playoff, if you're in a good playoff spot. Devin, what is one of your sayings? Banners fly forever.
I was going to say, should it get off the pot? I don't know.
Banners fly. Remember, banners fly forever?
If you can't remember what stone it is, it's always Mark or Michael. I don't know.
Yeah.
Mark, Mike, Bob. Bob Stone.
Forever a Flame, Michael Stone.
Dev
Yeah.
is our
Actually,
resident Rick Dollywall.
Well, Michael Stone is actually in the Flames organization as part of player development. So forever
That's
a Flame right now is actually accurate. So,
Well, the banners fly forever. It doesn't feel like that's this year though, Kev. That's my point. Is that we're squinting at as of right now, a team that was close to the playoffs. You got to expect that the goaltending will be better. You got to expect that the shots per game is going to be down, but the quality of shots is going to be up. As far as getting away from the Daryl Sutter mentality of shooting from the fucking sidewall, it does.
Mall. It might get into West Edmonton Mall. Who knows? Right?
Oh, God, so stupid. But I'm more along the lines of trying to get more third round picks, whatever the case may be, as far as what they value their players at, depending on who you're talking about. But Kev, where is your break point within signing Elias Lindholm to an 8-year deal? What is the AAV?
I've got something to say, and
Beautiful.
I've got something to say about this because, and I'm going to piss some people off, but the takes on Elias Lindholm this offseason from Flames Twitter were mostly stupid. Absolutely some of the dumbest takes I've seen on Twitter.
I hope it's not my
I don't
opinion.
care if you draw on a graph on a coloring board. If you're coming to me and saying, look at Connor McDavid and look, that's a number one center. Nobody is comparing Elias Lindholm to Connor McDavid as a number one center. No one on God's good green earth would do that. But this is what a lot of people hasn't talked about with Elias Lindholm. And I've done a lot of research on this because I give me the space to kind of just get through this. There was, other than the players that were acquired, which were Jonathan Huberdeau, Nazem Kadri, Mackenzie Weegar, and maybe Jacob Markstrom, nobody had a more difficult transition into the year than Elias Lindholm. He loses two of his line mates of the best line in the National Hockey League, Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Tkachuk. He's expected to play with Jonathan Huberdeau. They get off to a sluggish start, which should be expected because you're trying to develop chemistry. They lose a game that maybe they should have won to Edmonton, and all of a sudden Milan Lucic is in the top six. And he played, look it up on Natural Stat Trick. He played with everybody. He played on a line with Brett Ritchie and Milan Lucic. When the Flames won, Elias Lindholm was a point per game player in the National Hockey League. And whether you like plus minus or not, he was a plus 22 and effective on the power play. The problem is when the Flames lost, Lindholm was tough. He was a minus 16. He didn't get a power play goal, and he was well under a point a game player. Did Elias Lindholm have a great year? No, he did not. He had a rough year. But to put this, some of the takes that he is not a number one center in the National Hockey League, get off your ass. And for the love of God, to do some proper research. He was in the same point percentile as Jack Eichel. He was in the same point percentile as Sebastian Aho. And by the way, he had more points than Patrice Bergeron, who won the Selke Trophy. Give me a break about the garbage about Elias Lindholm. Now, I will argue and probably grant everyone about giving him 8 years. I think giving anybody 8 years is a questionable thing. But the things that were said about Elias Lindholm this offseason were absolutely fucking garbage. Absolute garbage. Sorry.
I love a fired up Kev. This is my favorite. I've missed this so much.
Don't apologize, Kev.
Yeah, don't be sorry. Stop being so Canadian.
I'm sorry for Kevin being sorry, listeners. No, Kev, you're 100% right. It's all about what is relative within the NHL. Yeah, okay, you're gonna be comparing anybody to Connor McDavid. Suck all the dicks, honestly. It doesn't make it. It's not relative to how good Elias Lindholm and how important Elias Lindholm is to this organization, to that top line, and I'm very. It's all about, for me, it's about the number. It's about the number and seeing, okay, what what does Craig Conroy's vision look like? Is it with Elias Lindholm or is it not? If it's without Elias Lindholm, then we need to do a fucking rebuild.
The most I would give if it was me, Elias Lindholm, I think I totally understand and get that why he wants a Bo Horvat, JT Miller 8x8. But from the Flame, if I was management, I would go 5x8. I think that you've got, because he's 27, he gets to 32, he's still pretty much in his wheelhouse. I'm not comfortable giving anybody an 8-year contract. I don't even know if I would give Connor McDavid an 8-year contract. Or Cale Makar, the best hockey player in the world. I don't know if I would give him an 8-year contract. It's just, that is so long.
The only thing within that, though, is that you have 31 other teams that probably would be willing to put a 7-year contract at over $8 million a year if they had the cap space, right? So why would he settle for a 5-year, $8 million contract? And that's just being.
But you got to make sure you get a pretty solid number one center, close to potential number one center back. But
that won't happen though, because who would be giving up another number one center for a number one center, right? So it'd be
number, like a young number one center, like a just
Adam Fantilli, Connor Bedard,
Connor Bedard, no,
Leo Carlson,
yeah. No, I definitely understand where you're coming from, Kev.
Just not this name.
Go for it.
Just hear me out, because I know someone's going to say something. A Logan Stanko, like in that, like a top level forward that has the potential to be a top 3 or 4 forward in the league.
It would have to go into a contender, right?
That's the issue. Is like they're going to be going. Usually, they don't. These teams don't give up those top end prospects.
Yeah, he's with Dallas, right?
Deals. Yeah, Stanko was in Dallas. Yeah,
it's a good comparable.
It's like I don't think long term Lindholm is going to be a consistent point per game player going forwards, but I think he's going to be close. And the Bo Horvat 8-year times 8.5 deal, I think, is probably close to what he will end up getting, whether it's with the Flames or whoever else. This is why this year's so interesting with the Flames, is that they are on the precipice of either becoming the San Jose Sharks, where they've got a bunch of older aging players on long-term contracts that basically make them almost unmovable unless you get real creative, and they have a career year that helps that. Or you start rebuilding. That's what makes this season so intriguing with the Flames. And I think Deb, you're right. I think that it's going to be a tough sell, but I think you have to shit or get off the pot, as you said, and make these moves, because to put this team in a position to succeed long term, you need to make those moves, because I think locking in long term on Lindholm, locking in long term on Hanifin, if you're able to convince him, locking in, you're looking at probably medium term with Backlund, and let alone you've got a couple other players,
Tanev, Zadorov,
yeah. And you look at the prospect cupboard. There's a few names there that are promising. You talked about Coronado. You've got Peltier coming up this year. Connor Zary had a good year in the AHL. But after that, there's a lot of there's not enough there that makes you excited. Yeah, they got Samuel Honzig coming up, but that's still early, very early on, and you don't know exactly what you have with him. So I think But can they sell? Can they manage up? Can they sell the ownership on doing that? That's the big question.
Yeah, that's going to be the question of the year, right? And then it's going to be, where is this team? And also, I think you also have to take a realistic look. Like, even if you are in first place, after Christmas, that doesn't guarantee you anything. Is this a playoff team? How are you doing? Like, how do you match up against your other teams, right? It's fascinating to me. It's absolutely fascinating, and I don't know which way to go. I don't know if I have I don't know. Like, you have to try to get something for these guys if they are going to leave. But it also, I don't know. Yeah, the other side of it is do you take this run and say this is the final hurrah, get your Stanley Cup, and hope for the best? I mean, that's a percentage small. It's fascinating to me. It's absolutely fascinating.
The worst outcome for Flames and Flames fans would be they go all in and they don't get it.
Yeah. Oh, that would be heartbreaking.
Well, and the chances of that happening are fucking high as hell.
Mm-hmm.
Like, realistically, I personally I'd go with the percentages. And yeah, even if you're in first, okay, at least get someone locked in, one of those top three, whether or not it's Hanifin, Lindholm, or I mean, yeah, I even have Backlund in there, but even then, I
think if there's one guy, the one guy that I think that's the higher percentage of signing is Lindholm. Like, if I was to go with the three, the most likely to sign, I think, would be Lindholm. The least likely
he just wants his money. I think that's the big one. He wants his money.
Yeah. And he's at a bargain right now, and he's been underplayed. Like, I don't blame him for wanting the contract. I take his side. I totally understand that.
Absolutely. And like, okay, say for instance that they go down the road of signing him at 8 years at X amount of money. 8 years, to me, it doesn't matter about the fucking money. He's going to get $8 to $9.5 million.
Yeah.
That's inevitable. It's the term that is going to be hard to swallow, but he is a type of player that will and should be able to have the majority of that contract, where he is able to be a formidable NHLer. I truly believe that. So, yeah, it'll be like, and the other thing is that you got to think about the salary cap going up. It will happen within the next 8 years. It will happen with the next probably 3. Who the hell knows? It's all, whispers. And
they're predicting a big jump next year.
And the year after that too. So the numbers are going to change, and you never know what's going to be happening this year. But whether or not, I think the biggest thing going into the season, you have to get something for somebody. And I think the biggest return that you can get would be either Lindholm or Hanifin. One of those two players needs to get something back.
Yeah,
and most likely Hanifin.
Yeah, I think we see Lindholm sign. I think Backlund and Hanifin are not back. Is my hunch of what's going to happen. But we'll have to see. I mean, and it's sort of interesting. You're seeing other players lately. You've been seeing sort of a leadership step up for Mackenzie Weegar, kind of taking on a little bit more of a leadership role within the organization. So I think that they're preparing to not have Backlund at some point. I think that I think that, like, I think from the outside it might look like there's no plan, but I do think there's a plan. And I think that that's the important part. It's just kind of, I think for me, it's about the wait and see part. But yeah, my big thing is just to take on Elias Lindholm. I just couldn't believe, like, it just raged me inside.
Fair.
I guess the story, a couple things. Parker Bell was signed to a contract. He'll go down to the WHL, but the big story today is it will be continuing to keep an eye on Oliver Shillington and hope just simply for the best. for him. Whenever he is ready to come back is when he comes back. Eric Francis wrote an article saying that Shillington has been dealing with family issues in the Swedish media. And I just think he needs a space, and, you know, I just hope for the best. That's all I have to say on that.
From a hockey perspective, it's disappointing. You were kind of hoping and banking on Oliver Shillington to be playing in the NHL this year, which he still has the potential of doing. But obviously, personal matters mean more overall than the product on the ice. So yeah, all the best to Oliver.
Yeah, I guess we'll wait and see what the Flames of how things go, and then we have their first preseason game Sunday, Flames and Canucks. There. I guess the other so we'll just move on to some of the other news. Just to touch on the commentator situation for both the Canucks and the Flames, they both will have, of course, John Garrett retiring last year, so it will be Dave Tomlinson taking over for most of the TV, but Ray Ferraro will be doing about 20 games for the Canucks this year, and I think that will be very exciting. He's one of the best in the game to do it, and I think he'll be a great add in Vancouver. And also in Calgary, a new color commentator on the radio side. Megan Mickelson is the new color commentator for the Calgary Flames, replacing Peter Lobardius, who's now a development scout with the Calgary Flames. Congratulations to him. By the way, great interview he did with Boomer on the Barn Burner that you should have a listen to. I would recommend the interview that Pat Steimer did with Megan Mickelson, and her journey is trying to get on that Canadian Olympic team. And with her knee is heartbreaking, but it was just listening to her. I'm really excited to have her on as a color commentator. I think she's just going to bring a really fresh perspective, and younger, mid to, so I think a bit more progressive in terms of the game as well. Not that Loubardias wasn't. I'm just saying that she's got a progressive mind, and I'm really excited what she's going to bring. I'm really looking forward to her.
Kevin, why do you hate Peter Loubardias? Why do you hate Peter Loubardias?
He's friend of the show too.
I know, Kevin. You're throwing under the bus.
You should go listen to our interview with Peter Loubardias. That was a good one.
Forgive my ignorance. Are we talking radio or TV for the Flames?
Radio.
Okay.
I pardon your ignorance.
No, there's still Rick Ball and Kelly Rudy on TV there, Chris.
Okay.
You should also mention Shorty signed a deal as well.
Yeah, he re-upped in the offseason. How many years was that? Did they even release details?
They don't release that. No.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty sure it's 12.
I mean, I would rather Shorty go until he old age retires. Shorty's one of the best in the game.
Yeah.
Let's get into, I guess, okay, so there's the one big story, and then we'll kind of go review the offseason. I guess we do have to talk about this. I have to be honest with you. This whole situation baffled me with Mike Babcock and the photos. And by the way, I'm thank you guys, by the way, for sending me your photos on your phone. I will be taking about 10 to 20 minutes, just having a look at them. Tyler, I'm still waiting for yours. I hope, yeah. So
I really hope you like my dick pics, man. They're right there.
Yeah.
Didn't even try to hide them.
No, I did. Hey, you wanted them? You got them.
Yeah. But I've never heard of such a strange story that I just was scratching my head throughout of this. I'm like, what is going on here? And I'm not surprised that Babcock's gone. And I'm quite frankly not surprised he didn't really apologize. He clearly hasn't learned his lesson. And I think he needs to, I join others to say, I think he needs to go bye-bye. I think the time for Mike Babcock in the NHL is over, and he needs help, and he needs to figure out what the hell he's doing, but he should not be coaching, quite frankly, any hockey player right now is the way I feel about this.
Retire the old boys club.
I'm actually surprised. I thought that he's got to know that he's on a fucking short lease within this age and era of the NHL, and he goes off campus and has a young player's phone for several minutes. It baffles me. You know, I guess he just he can't learn new tricks.
Babcock can't learn new tricks.
Mike Babcock.
New tricks.
So,
Yeah, I was with you, Kev. It was a little weird, confusing at the beginning, but the more details came out, you're like, okay, yeah, get him out of here. Like that's totally offside. I think the asking to see pictures and as long as you allow the control to stay with the player is fine. But taking the phone and scrolling through and doing all that, that's bullshit. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
So
it's one thing if it's an older, more veteran player who likely has like a young family and is all going to have, like, let's be honest, 98% chance of all PG photos. Whereas if you're talking about some young 20, like something who's single and probably is having fun in the off season, what have you, like, yeah, two completely different situations. One is a lot more, you really want to take your luck with scrolling through that photo roll sort of situation. So yeah, like it definitely was when Biz first broke the news, I wasn't quite sure like how much credibility do I put into Biz being a journalist, that sort of angle. But once he doubled down, I was like, okay, well, if he's doubling down that hard, clearly he's getting good information because he would not put his TNT broadcast job at risk over something that he didn't have solid info on. So the fact that he was as serious about it as he was and made as big of a stink as he did, clearly it obviously got to an awkward enough point that even if Babcock, like, they couldn't like prove Babcock was guilty or what have you, like it just got too awkward for him to actually have any credibility in that room for the season. So it just got to a point where, like, if he didn't resign, he was going to get fired.
Two things out of this that is crazy to think about is that for those of you out there who think that the new age kids are soft and they can't handle this stuff. Okay, you go and you show your bank records. You go and show your health records to somebody who doesn't deserve to see that, and you don't feel like is worthy of seeing that stuff. You go do that, and then you can tell me to shove it up my ass. Essentially, that's fine. The other thing that I'm very curious about is seeing not so much the backlash, but the response of how Johnny Gaudreau and Boone Jenner responded to the first parts of the allegation and how that dressing room is going to be, which we probably won't see and we probably won't hear for until somebody makes a book out of it, essentially.
Unless Rick Westhead gets involved. Then maybe you might get answers.
Or Aaron Portsline down in CBJ would be, I think he'd be a good person to potentially have that come out. But yeah, I would love to be a fly on the wall to see Boone Jenner and Johnny Gaudreau trying to figure out, okay, how do we navigate this? But once again, I don't think we'll see that.
Yeah, earning back trust and locker room dynamic is definitely going to be very interesting in the Blue Jackets locker room this season.
And especially when the second pick of your draft, the second pick of this draft is a potential at least second place winner for the Calder Trophy and a guy that you're going to build your franchise around. And probably one of those kids that said, fuck you, Mike Babcock. You're not looking at my photos.
You're not going to Mitch Marner me.
You're not going to Mitch Marner. And
dare I say that Fantilli, I think, has a potential to be a better hockey player overall than Connor Bedard. Dare I say it?
Ooh, the hot take. Interesting.
The casualness of which he did it too.
Yeah, it's I'm going to be fascinated. I mean, I think Connor Bedard is going to automatically win the Rookie of the Year. I just don't think that I don't see anyone else other than him getting it because I think it's just he has the name recognition. But long
as
term,
he stays healthy and
he puts up the points to follow it. Yeah.
And let me temper this as well. Sorry, I'm gonna just rewind this back a little bit. I think the overall better player is going to be Adam Fantilli than Connor Bedard. Connor Bedard is going to be putting up fucking points left, right, and center. Overall, defensive and offensive, Adam Fantilli.
So you're saying he has a better 200-foot game? Okay, that makes more sense.
Yes. Yeah.
Bedard was.
I knew what Devin was putting down.
Yeah, I got it too.
Meanwhile, Dylan in the chat is losing his collective shit.
Yeah.
Leo who?
Leo Carlson was the second overall pick.
Leo Komarov, John Carlson, who I don't get it.
But what was what was your off season? What was fascinated you about this off season?
And silence. Crap.
Are you just talking generally speaking league wide?
Yeah, league wide or kind of hockey. Any hockey stories fascinate you?
I mean, I know we kind of already talked about it, but the fact that I was expecting overhauls in Calgary and Winnipeg, and the fact that outside of maybe the Dubois trade, it was a nothing burger of a summer for both teams.
Yeah,
it'll be real interesting to see how both those teams fare this upcoming season, just based off of that and what situations they're coming up against. Whether it's Hellebuck and Scheifele in Winnipeg, we've already talked about the 4 or 5 contracts in Calgary that are due at the end of the season. So seeing how those sort of limbo situations play out is kind of where I'm the most intrigued by.
The first round of the draft was very much, I feel like, a bust as far as the amount of activity that was supposed to happen that didn't happen. I don't know if that was
snooze fest. Yeah,
I don't know if it was the media trying to hype it all up because it's the biggest or the best draft since 2003. It was very disappointing. I was waiting and I was waiting and I was waiting. I know I wasn't the only one watching that first round go through and nothing fucking happened.
And just waiting for Bettman to be like, "We have a trade to announce" with a shit-eating grin.
You're gonna want to hear this.
So that was a big one for me. And yeah, I guess even just the lack of movement overall over the summer really was a big question mark on what's happening. I was expecting Brad Treliving to have a bit more of a active year as the first part of his first year of being the GM for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and their back end is very much less to be desired of. It was. I feel like it was very much a meh off season.
Can we just collectively say, moving forward, hopefully the flat cap is no longer a thing? Because I feel like that is the base reason for a lot of the stuff we're bitching about.
Fair.
I'd say that in sort of similar to you there, Dev, the fact that the Erik Karlsson trade wasn't the sort of the little linchpin that helped break the dam on trades and all that. I was expecting that to once that happened, I was expecting more movement, and we didn't really see it.
Yeah, because we had the Carl after the draft. The three trades that we had was the Dubois trade, the Alex DeBrincat trade to Detroit, the Tarasenko signed with Ottawa, and the Erik Karlsson trade. So those were the kind of the 4 big moves that happened in the offseason. It was the fascination was the lack of movement was interesting to me. But I think to me, my favorite offseason, or this offseason story to me, wasn't in the NHL. It was the development and the progression of the PWHL, which actually got off a draft. We have some actual teams, we have some actual coaches, and we have an actual league that we can talk about. So that's exciting. I'm looking forward to that. But in terms of the NHL offseason, it was pretty meh. But the PWHL, I thought, was probably my favorite offseason story.
Fair.
Yeah, not
Go
wrong
off
on
the
there.
board, but I love it.
Still waiting to hear the broadcasting rights on that.
Yeah, I was wondering if I don't know where that's going to be, but that's the next step. But yeah.
Are we going to assume that they are going to secure a TV deal this upcoming season, or do you think that might be a 1-year wait at this point?
I think they have to get one, honestly. If they're gonna grow this league, they're gonna need eyes on the product, and they can't just be local.
Do you feel like I feel like that would be a missed opportunity if TSN or a TSN like company doesn't jump on that.
If anything, it'll be maybe stream only.
Yeah,
like on TSN Plus or Sportsnet Now.
Or it might even be Amazon or Apple, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about what is it, DAZN? Or do you think that's not in their demo?
It'd be reach
I think
for them.
the thing with if the PWHL is smart, they need to be in on a sports channel that people already have to watch hockey.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with the whole TSN angle. Yeah.
TSN, I don't know what would be down in the States, but yeah, they'd have to find it. They need to be in there so that you've got the reporters already built in to cover it.
I believe because I typically listen to the 6:15 morning show, and when they had Wish on this past week, I want to say Wish was talking about the fact that in the past they covered some of the women's hockey on ESPN Plus. So I think ESPN Plus would probably be the American equivalent.
Yeah,
I could see that. Anything else that we need to chat about?
Maybe not a need, but I'm kind of curious because I feel like these three teams have been knocking at the playoff door for a while now, and clearly they're with each passing season, it feels like they're closer and closer. So who in the East finally cracks the playoff barrier? Is it going to be Buffalo? Is it going to be Detroit? Or is it going to be Ottawa? If you have to pick one, who is it?
Love this question.
Buffalo.
For me personally, and I think I said this last season at this same point, I really like Ottawa's lineup. And losing to Brinkat sucks, but they picked up Tarasenko. So maybe not equal, but I feel close enough to equal that ultimately I'm not going to change my allegiance. I'm still rooting for the Sens.
I'll let Kev go first.
I think the Atlantic Division is the most fascinating division out of the four because I actually don't know who I have a prediction who I think is going to win, but I think that it's up to 6 teams, and I will include Buffalo and Ottawa with the potential to win the division.
I said pick a team.
But I'm going there. I think Detroit is the one that's the furthest back, and I think it's between Buffalo and Ottawa. The pressure's on Ottawa. I think Buffalo is the one that finishes higher. And I think Buffalo, I'll maybe spoil it. I have Buffalo finishing third in that division.
You spoiled it right there, man.
Steal his thunder, man.
I look at the top 6 of Buffalo. I look at the top 6 of Ottawa. I'd take Ottawa over Buffalo. The defense on Buffalo is better, but it doesn't mean that the defense on Ottawa isn't that much worse because you have Shabbat, Chikrin, Sanderson, and Zub as your top 4. And then on your in Buffalo, you have Darlene, Power, Samuelson and Connor Clifton, who came over from Boston. Now it comes down to goaltending. Do you believe that your Devin Levi or Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is going to be better than
Korpisalo
or their backup there? I'm just going to bring it up quickly.
Why am I drawing
Is it
blank on it?
972-year-old Craig Anderson?
No, it's not. And that was in Buffalo, which is funny. Anton Forsberg.
Yes, yeah.
I got to go with Ottawa. I think Ottawa has a better lineup, has a younger lineup, and that the offense on that top six is going to outdo the defense on the Buffalo Sabres. And that goaltending is more sound overall than Devin Levi, who is a toss-up. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, who had a really good year, but didn't really get the runway that I thought he should have. So you have Korpisalo and Forsberg, who have both been formidable 1A, 1B goaltenders going forward. So, and I really do hope that, and this is weird for me to say, but I really do hope that Ottawa makes a push, because I love watching Brady Tkachuk lead that team. It's hard to cheer against them when you have that as your captain. The better Tkachuk, as Sean always says.
It really is a toss-up between Ottawa and Buffalo. I think I like Buffalo's forward depth all the way through better than Ottawa's. And then I just think the two-headed monster of Power and Dahlin is going to be just will take that defense up a notch. And they also added Eric Johnson, and they have Henry Yokiharu as well on that blue line. So I think the depth of their blue line is better than Ottawa's as well. So if they get the goaltending, if Devin Levi steps up, or Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen steps up, I think it's the depth of the lineup in front of them is going to carry them.
And poor Detroit. My God.
And speaking of Detroit, I was going to kind of have a follow-up question in the sense of, like, considering his success that he had down in Tampa, did Yzerman use up all of his beginner's luck and he's struggling now? Because, like, he signed a bunch of more kind of middle-aged veteran types to try and force Detroit kind of back into the playoff picture. But part of me is wondering how successful that's going to be.
I think he's a year ahead of where he should be. Signing Justin Hall, trading for Jeff Petrie, and signing Shane Gostisbehere.
And JT Compher too, I believe.
Is Compher on there?
Compher,
yeah. Klim Kostin from Edmonton. I don't know. Kristen Fisher from Arizona. It doesn't seem like those are moves that are conducive to where they're at in their building of a potential contender. I'm actually quite surprised on Yzerman and how he went through this offseason after he made such a great trade from Hronik over to Vancouver. So who the hell knows? I'm not a fan of it, though.
Yeah, especially in comparison to the Ottawa and Buffalo kind of natural progressions, it kind of reeks of desperation almost, which is very not Yzerman-like.
And did he sign DeBrincat? He did sign. Well, but did he sign though?
They traded, and then they got him signed. Yeah,
he signed.
There's a lot of pressure on Ville Husso to carry that team as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing on Detroit. I mean, Maurice Seider is going to be an elite defenseman. Lucas Raymond, I think, is going to be a great player. But that forward group, especially that center group. I mean, Dylan Larkin. I mean, I guess if we were watching Detroit more, we would probably appreciate Dylan Larkin more. But I don't feel that forward group and that defense overall. I just don't feel it's strong enough yet. I think it's got still a lot of work to do.
That defense is old.
It is very old.
Yeah, Ben Sherratt, Petrie, Hall, and Gostisbehere is your bottom four. That's so fucking bad. watching Justin Hall for as long as I did. Jeff Petrie, he's past 36. I think he turns 37 this year. Shane Gostisbehere is a power play specialist, but you don't even have him on your first power play. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me.
And they have what, Sider, and who's the other guy to fill up the
Lucas
six?
Raymond.
Oh, right.
Jake Wallman.
Oh, Jake Wallman.
Who's
Yeah,
very
that's why
underrated.
I was very did not understand Yzerman's trading of Philip Hronek. So
I think Hronek was asking for more money than he was willing to do, and he's like, okay, well, if this is it, then we'll trade you. And going back to Vancouver, from what Patrick Alvin was saying, it was very counterintuitive at the end of the year or near the end of the year to trade for Philip Hronek. I remember having a podcast on that and talking about what the hell he was doing. Not saying it was a bad move, but it was just against what he was getting after. Because I think that Hronek is going to be a great asset for the Canucks going forward. I really think he's 23, 24 years old. So, which is great. But yeah, Yzerman, Chris, great questions on back-to-back there. It's out of your norm, but you did a good job on your first podcast back.
I was gonna maybe here's my last question, just to add to it. Is Steve Yzerman overrated?
Yep.
And I was kind of getting at that. Like, did he use up his beginner's luck down in Tampa? Because this kind of doesn't seem like the Yzerman that was down in Tampa, who almost felt like he was playing chess when everyone else was playing checkers. Whereas now, I don't know, I could understand maybe selling high on Hronek, but everything after that to me doesn't make as much
even
logical.
then, spending the money that he did on Andrew Kopp the season before.
Yeah.
JT Compher 5 years at 5.1. I would much rather spend money on a right shot top four defenseman than some middle six forwards or centers that are overpaid like that.
Although Comfort did prove himself in Colorado, it's just whether he can do that sustainably.
Well, he's a good middle six player, but he's not a 5.1 type of player.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as Andrew Kopp, good middle six guy.
He's
just got overpaid
by $500,000. This to me, this reeks of a owner pushing faster than what the GM should be doing. So it's not about Yzerman is the punching bag or the piñata within this, but he's taking marching orders from up top and up top.
Are you saying Yzerman doesn't know how to manage upwards?
Well, the one thing I will say, and I think the Oilers are doing a really good example of this. It's not just about the GM; it's the people around that GM as well. The Lightning won a Stanley Cup with Julien Brisebois at the helm, and they got to a final with Julien Brisebois at the helm. Like that, the team around Steve Yzerman, I think, will hear as much as part of Yzerman's success as Yzerman himself.
And yeah, maybe there was too much credit given to his name when he was down in Tampa.
Maybe.
Okay. All right, I think we leave it there. We're almost past Tyler's bedtime, so kind of. I'm just kidding. We miss Tyler.
No, fuck Tyler. God damn it,
Tyler.
I don't miss you, Tyler.
And he's not jealous of your hair.
No.
But we're still we're still on the Twitter. Yeah.
X.
And yes, it is Twitter.
It's Twitter. It's not X. It's the dumbest name ever. And what are the anyway. How do we follow everyone?
You can follow me on X, Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, at BeardyConnect03.
I am at Schneids on most social media.
What the fuck is Blue Sky. That's stupid.
It's another one.
Oh
I
my
haven't done
god.
that one.
The only reason I'll give it some credit is that the guy who started Twitter, Jack, is the guy who's also starting Blue Sky.
I'm younger than Sean by 4 years, but I feel as like 90 years old right now. This is stupid. You can follow me at Gordhouse09, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can follow me at Shifts and Pucks, I guess.
Yeah, subscribe on the YouTube channel. Give us a like on there. Give us a rating review wherever you get your podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at Shifts and Pucks. You can follow me, KBLE, on Threads and Twitter. I'm not on Blue Sky. I'll get a Blue Sky account as well, I guess. Subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Also Facebook as well. We still go on there. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch as well. You can subscribe on Twitch. And Tyler's TNOBLE. I know he's on X, but I don't know. And I know he's on Instagram. Yeah. And I don't think he's on Threads. I don't know. Yeah. We'll be back. We're working our schedule out. And so stay tuned. We'll have our clips out. We'll be starting the news packs on Monday. I'll be starting those again. But we're back. Hockey is back. Woohoo! And thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.
Fuck you, Tyler.